members, welcome. Thank you for joining me. I put out a post and asked y'all what you wanted to see, and the majority of you wanted a video about Diddy. So here we are. You probably heard by now that my fellow Texan, Tony Buzbee, at the Buzbee law firm, has come forward with not one, not two, not 10, but 120 victims of Diddy. And he did a press release on October 1st, I think, maybe 2nd, I don't know. And we are going to watch that press release together. It's just so you know, I hope all of you are adults, and if your kids are around, today is not the day, okay? Diddy is a sicko. All right, here we go. This is Tony Buzbee. He is a Texas lawyer. He's also licensed in New York, as we're about to find out. Oh, yes.
No matter the evidence to the contrary, to defend celebrities they love. I mean, there's a reason for this word fans. They're fanatics.
Okay, right now he's talking about fans and how they'll kind of say inappropriate things because fan, I guess the root word is fanatic. I didn't know that. All right, here we go.
I've personally already been threatened multiple times on social media. And when I agreed to pursue this, I expected as much. This isn't my first rodeo. But victims who step forward to have their voices heard should not be subjected to that kind of conduct. They should not be targeted. I want to say this, and I want to be clear about it. Although we are vetting each call as stringently as we can, I always start with a mindset that I believe victims.
Okay, so as we go through this, I'm going to make it go a little faster. But he definitely uses this opportunity as an advertisement. I mean, you see his 1-800 number behind him. It's got his branding everywhere. I guess he's working with this Ava law group. Their branding's everywhere. So while you listen to this, do remember this is also a solicitation for business. This is a commercial for him, okay?
I believe victims because I understand the tremendous courage it takes to step forward. So if you're watching this, please hear me. If you're out there and you have been victimized, you are not alone. There is a great strength in numbers. You can seek redress. You can obtain justice. We can help you, and we will help you. That being said, as stated, we are vetting every call that we receive. We've had to turn away some. For each, we ask for corroboration. For each, we ask for the identity of witnesses. We also have collected pictures, videos, texts. We check venues. We check dates. We want to corroborate that the claims being made have legitimacy and merit.
Okay, they have to do that. At least here in Texas, we have a civil rule of procedure 91A, which requires that there is at least some issue in law and or fact before the court. So we as attorneys have a duty to verify that what our client has come to us with is at least truthful enough that it can be corroborated. Now, there's always two sides of the story, and you never know what that other side really necessarily looks like. But we have a legal duty as attorneys to make sure that our lawsuit is legitimate. And he's taking these on as lawsuits. This is not criminal. This is civil. This is what I do.
We have on staff now a former detective from the Major Offenders Unit of Houston Police Department.
I thought that was
who's helping us vet each claim. We're using our common sense.
That's very interesting.
Because, as I said, these are not easy cases. They're very tough. The process is hard, and in some cases, the process is very lengthy. These cases are hard to prove. Many times, it's the victim's word against the alleged perpetrator. Each of these victims will no doubt be publicly attacked by the alleged perpetrators, and in some cases, the general public. The feckless and cowardly keyboard warriors love to attack. We know what we're up against.
I like his language. It's, this is a commercial, guys. It's very colorful. He's setting the stage. He's already laying out themes that we're going to for sure see in his prosecution of these cases. No doubt in my mind. If we get to see these civil cases televised, if they ever actually get to that point, I promise you will hear these same words again. Guarantee it.
Not enter this fray blindly. I wish it was my last such fray. I wish this type of behavior wasn't so pervasive. But it is what it is, so we will press on. As I said, our law firms have been retained by 120 individuals at this point to pursue cases in civil court against Sean Diddy Combs. You should know, in this group, it is evenly divided between males and females. There are 60 males and 60 females who have joined us to pursue these claims as plaintiffs.
In this group, 60 men and 60 women. So they have 120 human beings coming forward, and it's split evenly between men and women. I believe, by the way, I'm looking up right now, but I think Richard Buzbee was one of the attorneys involved in the Ken Paxton impeachment. I'm not 100% on that. I'm looking just to verify, but I do believe that he was part of it. Yeah, Tony Buzbee, right here. He was a defense lawyer for Ken Paxton. And if you follow anything about Texas law, Texas politics, you will know Ken Paxton is our lieutenant governor, who's actually the one with power. Our governor is kind of more of just like a figurehead. Ken Paxton was impeached. He took a lot of bribery money, all this stuff. And he was prosecuted by 3 like super famous Texan lawyers, and he was defended by 2 super famous Texan lawyers, and Tony Buzbee was one of them. I remembered. I was like, I know that name. Well, guess what? Tony Buzbee and Ken Paxton, they won. Even though Ken Paxton is totally guilty of all these things. Tony Buzbee, and at that time his co-counsel was Dan Cogdell. Cogdell. Anyhow, they defended Paxton successfully, and I did watch those impeachment hearings. It was pretty interesting. So, all right, we'll get back to this.
62% identify as African American, 30% are white, and the remainder Hispanic or Asian. The victims are from more than 25 states. The majority are from California, New York, Georgia, and Florida.
That makes sense, because you have, LA, Miami, Atlanta, and New York City. Those are big hubs for the music industry.
I want to focus on the ages of these victims. When you talk about the ages of the victims when the conduct occurred, it's shocking. Our youngest victim at the time of the occurrence was 9 years old. We have an individual who was 14 years old. We have one who was 15. 25 of the 120 individuals who are plaintiffs in these cases were minors at the time.
25 of 120 were minors. One of the minors is as young as 9.
Of the acts complained of. The time frame of the acts complained of is very wide. The conduct at issue spans from the years 1991 all the way till this year, 2024. If you wonder why there are so many alleged victims, that's your answer. We're talking about more than 25 years of this type of conduct.
25 years is prolific. 25 years is entire generation. 91 to now. That is crazy. Could there be 120 victims in 25 years? Yeah. Easily.
Who stepped forward were victimized after 2015. This has been going on for a very long time. Now, when you think about the fact that some of this conduct occurred 25 years ago, and you wonder why would it take somebody so long to step forward, I want to remind you that many states in the United States have recognized that it's very difficult for a victim to step forward and to make these.
In 1991, if you were raped, it was your fault. Full stop. Okay, like the reason people didn't come forward in the 90s and the 2000s and even the 2010s is because our society flatly rejected that and often blamed the victim. Like there was no room to come forward, especially if you're talking about someone as powerful as Diddy was. Especially if you wanted to have a career in the music industry or in like the industry of fame. If you wanted to be a regular lowly real estate lawyer in Dallas, Texas, sure, you could have come forward. It wouldn't have killed your career necessarily. But if you wanted to be, the next Mariah Carey, you could not go out and be honest about these things. Why did it take so long for people to come forward about Bill Cosby? Because this shit was unacceptable until the #MeToo movement. Like, we did not talk about these things. It wasn't okay. Even if you were drugged and then raped, it was your fault for going to the party. That's how our society treated people. So why wouldn't they come forward? I don't know. Maybe because they had already been victimized. They didn't want to be victimized again by, all of society.
These types of allegations when something very terrible has happened to them. I'll use New York, the state of New York as an example. The state of New York has specific statutes in place that revive claims. That are even claims that would typically be not able to be brought, that revive such claims, and they can be brought even 25 to 30 years later. because there's a recognition there in New York and California and other states that it's very difficult for a victim to come forward. And I would respectfully suggest the only reason many of these people are coming forward is they see other victims coming forward. It gives them some comfort that, hey, I won't be the only one.
As I understand it, if Little Rod had not filed his lawsuit, none of this would have come out. Like, he was the first domino.
And I expect more victims will come forward. There's an old saying that says, a lie has great speed, but truth has endurance. The acts complained
I've never heard that saying, but I like it. A lie has great speed, but truth has endurance.
of, and these cases that we're going to file occurred primarily in New York, either Manhattan or the Hamptons, or occurred in California, primarily in Los Angeles, or in Florida, primarily in Miami. Most of these events and incidents occurred at parties, typically after parties, or album release parties, New Year's Eve parties, 4th of July parties, something they call the puppy party, all-white party, although several of these events occurred at auditions. Many times, especially young people wanting to break into the industry, were coerced into this type of conduct in the promise of being made a star, or in the promise of having Sean Combs listen to their tape or even let them read for Sean Combs. You should know that some of this behavior occurred at well-known venues in New York City. Some of this behavior occurred at private residences of people that we all know. Some of this behavior occurred at hotels that we're all familiar with. You should know that more than 55% of the victims filed reported this conduct.
Over half the victims reported the misconduct. So there are reports for over 110 people. I'm sorry, over 55 people. I'm not good at math, that's why I'm a lawyer. About these incidents. 55 people came out and said this was going on, and no one ever did anything about it.
To either the authorities, that is the police, or to hospitals. We're in the process of collecting with our team assistants medical records, reports that were made to the authorities, and I've already said that some of the individuals in this group did in fact talk to the FBI. You should know that several of the individuals, and when I say several, I mean many, who did in fact seek medical treatment were drug tested, and drugs were found in their system, weird drugs that you probably never heard of. One in particular that continues to pop up is a drug called Xylazine, or Trank, which, based on our research, is known as a horse tranquilizer.
Excuse me? Excuse me? Why would a human ever need a horse tranquilizer? Horses are, 5 times larger than us on average? 4? 3? I don't know. They're really big.
Now, there's been a lot of reports that we're filing a class action. This is not a class action. Class action is when 1 or 2 people file a case on behalf of a group of people. That's not this. These cases will be individual cases. Each case will live and die on its own merit. These cases will be filed individually, one plaintiff against whoever the defendants were involved in the case.
Okay. So this is going to be 120 individual lawsuits. He's just going to be representing each one of those individuals. So that's an interesting aspect. It is not a class action.
Each case may be filed in one venue like California. Another case may be filed in New York. One case may sue just Sean Combs, but multiple other people. One case may sue a range of people. I would expect most of those to be filed, as I said, in New York and Los Angeles.
Okay.
Now, I know this. Many of you came here thinking or hoping, perhaps believing, that I may start naming names. That day will come, but it won't be today.
I can't wait for that day.
The day will come, and we will name names other than Sean Combs, and there's a lot of names. It's a long list already. And of course, I already know who some of these individuals are. But because of the nature of this case, we're going to make damn sure that we're right before we do that. But the names that we're going to name, assuming that our investigators confirm and corroborate.
And you better make sure you better make damn sure you're right, because you're about to accuse people of some really, really serious and perverse crimes. And so don't just go out there and willy-nilly accuse people of serious and perverse crimes, please. There's slander, libel, defamation, all kinds of issues you can run into. Of course, the defense to those is truth. If it's truthful, then it can't be slander, libel, or defamation. But that's not the point. These are big accusations, and you don't just throw this kind of shit around, right? This isn't like, hey, you're a careless driver. Okay, like, this is not an accusation like you're messy. No, this is serious shit.
What we've been told are names that will shock you. These are individual cases. There are indeed other perpetrators involved. They will be revealed when that particular individual case is ready to be filed. They already know who they are. And I'm talking here about not just the cowardly but complicit bystanders. That is, those people that we know watched this behavior occur and did nothing. I'm talking about the people that participated, encouraged it, egged it on. They know who they are. I call them the facilitators of foul play, willing participants in vile conduct.
See, he already has the names for them. Willing participants of vile conduct, participants of foul play. These are theme words, guys. I promise in these 120 trials, you're going to hear these words again and again. You're going to hear them in front of the jury. You're going to hear him come out in testimony. He is going to use this theme throughout.
As we identify them, each will be part of this case as defendants. These defendants will not only include individuals, but will also include corporate entities who ultimately profited off of this culture and behavior. I'm looking at banks, pharmaceutical companies, hotels. We know that many of these individuals were paid cash. We know that...
I love that. Pharmaceutical companies were coming for you. Brilliant. I love it.
That many of these individuals involved, whether they were the ones being assaulted and abused or they're witnessing other people being assaulted and abused and then paid and threatened and told to leave. Typically paid 10 grand in cash and told to leave. And then threatened as they were leaving. So in addition to Sean Combs, you should know the defendant.
Okay. The people who were paid and threatened as they were leaving, I don't think it's just to bring them into this. They were threatened. They are also victims. Even though they were paid to stay silent, they are victims because they were threatened. Okay? So it's the people that weren't threatened that said nothing. The people who took the money and were not afraid in any way, shape, or form of what would happen to them as a repercussion of Diddy's behavior.
In these cases we're going to file will include anyone, of course, who engaged in the assault or exploitation, anyone who participated in such in any way, anyone who encouraged or facilitated this conduct, anyone who was in the room and watched it happen but made no effort to stop it,
Yes.
any venue or venue owner who was aware of what was going on but
Good.
failed to stop it, any individual or entity who knew about the conduct and benefited from it but did
Okay.
nothing to report it or stop it, and any...
So if they can, what he's saying basically is if we could prove someone at Hyatt Hotels knew that the hotel was making money and this was going on, then we're going to bring Hyatt Hotels into it. Sorry, Hyatt, I just threw that out there. You know, if Big Pharma, whoever makes this horse tranquilizer, knew that Diddy was like their number one customer, you know, much like the baby oil people probably did, then the Big Pharma should be sucked into it. I like this theory, not necessarily because these people will be held liable, which I don't think in a lot of cases they would. If you go look at that case, Paul's graph that I've told you about before, it's such a tragic and horrible case, but that's why I don't think it would necessarily extend to these people. But having and dragging these people into this is a brilliant idea because it is loud and they are big and they have lots of money and they can then, the corporations are likely to start to do things to prevent similar like this from happening in the future. So maybe, you know, they quit selling horse tranquilizers to pop stars, you know, I don't know. But it is, I like the idea of having all these parties, every party that somehow benefited from this sick shit needs to be held accountable. And I like that. I like that idea. I'm really here for it.
individual or entity who covered it up or helped cover it up. These people who know who they are should just come forward now. I would imagine, as we speak here, there are a myriad of people who are very nervous.
Uh-huh.
You can't hide skeletons in the closet forever. I would expect there are many people out there right now who are desperately searching their memories as they delete their text and data.
Yep.
Now, although these are, in fact, individual cases, there is a common theme, MO, if you will. Typically, the victim is lured into a situation where he or she is given a drink. Typically, that drink, reported by these victims, is apparently laced with something.
Okay.
Once that drink takes effect, the perpetrators perform all kinds of sexual acts on the victims, many times passing him or her around as other people watch and enjoy the show, and then leave the victim ashamed, confused, injured, and wondering what happened.
That is disgusting. That is disgusting. If that is what happened, that is disgusting.
When the victim reaches out, he or she is told not to say anything. Sometimes there are threats of all physical violence or financial repercussions or bodily harm. Claims we
Disgusting.
intend to bring will include the following: violent sexual assault or rape, sexual abuse, facilitated sex with a controlled substance, false imprisonment, compelling prostitution, sexual misconduct, dissemination of video recordings, false imprisonment, sexual abuse of minors.
Wow.
Given the large volume of cases and given our other docket obligations, and given the fact that we want to be sure when we file these cases that they are fully vetted, I expect we'll start filing these cases against Sean Combs and other perpetrators within the next 30 days.
Wow. Okay. So one, I think, good technique here is the false imprisonment. False imprisonment is a tort. A tort is something like negligence. It's, PI attorney, personal injury attorneys handle torts, right? So false imprisonment is a tort, and as long as that imprisonment did damage to the person who was there, and they don't have to necessarily be locked in a prison, they have to be in a situation where they think they are not able to leave without, serious risk of bodily harm. I think pretty easily it can be proven that if you're roofied and you can't actually walk or anything, that you are falsely imprisoned. Did you want to be stuck in this room with all of these people using your body and watching? No. Okay. Boom. False imprisonment. I like it. And in civil law, we can do different things. It's only a financial penalty, but it's also the risk of embarrassment, for a lot of these people. So there's that penalty as well. But you can get a bit more creative and I think sometimes even more specific. So it's very interesting.
It's rare, sexual abuse, sexual exploitation, this type of activity is pervasive in our society. It's rare we get a chance where we can really focus on this as a country and really focus on this, how pervasive this is and what we as collectively can do about it. So I thought I'd take this opportunity before I go into some individual cases and talk about some of the individual claims being made and so you'll get a sense of what this 120 people group looks like individually. I want to bring forward Carrie Paul. She's a national victim advocate who helps victims who have been victimized by this type of conduct. And she has some important words, and I hope you'll pay close attention. I think it's important that you hear from her.
Hello, I'm Carrie Paul, the National Victim Advocate. It's not easy for any survivor.
You can file these cases, these individual.
Okay, so this is part of the reason that all this advocate thing they're talking about, we're going to skip through it, but it's part of the reason that for my birthday I sponsored the National Association for Missing and Exploited Children. Myself, having grown up in an abusive household, I really felt truly unloved and unwanted. And I still sometimes struggle with that, really. And I can only imagine that children who are in foster care or high risk or being sexually abused, which I'm very grateful did not occur in my situation, would feel very similarly. And what the National Association of Exploited Missing, the National Center for Exploited and Missing Children is doing is finding those kids, taking that list of 38,000, runaway foster children across the United States and finding them. And in my mind, if I was a kid and someone came and found me specifically, like, oh, we had your name and we found you and we're rescuing you out of this shit, that would be life-changing. Then I would see the value in myself, maybe, hopefully. So it's important to me, and I hope to my members and everyone who watches this, to help support organizations that help people who get stuck into this, in particular children who never even, really had much of a shot oftentimes. So he's about to get into these victims. Most of these victims, I'm being honest, were probably regular suburban, middle-class type kids. And we're going to hear that. But there is a whole other group of victims, which is the at-risk kids who already aren't really being advocated and spoken for. So off my high horse, back to the video.
Individual cases under Jane Doe or John Doe. Each state is different in that respect. Typically, there is a balancing test, like the public's right to know the name of the victim and plaintiff versus the confidentiality and the safety of the plaintiff. So we'll have to struggle with that with each one of these cases. Our intention, of course, is to, like we always do, file these cases under pseudonym until the court tells us otherwise. Let me share with you a few, just kind of give you a sense of the kind of cases and the kind of instances that people are calling and reporting that we are trying to corroborate, vet, and these are the ones that we've already corroborated, vetted, and collected evidence on.
Wow.
One individual who was 22 years at the time she was assaulted said that the typical MO at one of these parties that have been widely discussed in the press was that when you were handed a drink, and now we know that the drink is laced with something, if you refuse to drink it, you were kicked out of the party.
If you refuse to drink it, you're kicked out of the party. When you're handed a drink, if you refuse to drink it, you're kicked out of the party.
To this party was that you had to drink the chosen drink that was handed to you. And now we know that in most cases, let's say 90% of the cases, these individuals were drugged with some sort of drug. That was kind of the MO. Another instance.
Of course. Like, you got to drink the drink with the drugs that I'm handing to you so that you can pass out and I can use you as a rag doll against your, or without your consent.
This individual, who was 9 years old at the time,
Ugh.
was taken
9 years old. That's so sick.
to a audition in New York City with Bad Boy Records. Other boys were there to audition as well. All of them were trying to land a record deal. All of them were minors. This individual was sexually abused, allegedly by Sean Combs.
Just these little kids that want to sing. You know, little kids that think they're a good singer. They want to sing like a Justin Bieber type.
And several other people at the studio in the promise to both his parents
Several
and
other
to him
people?
himself of getting a record deal. Another instance, another minor told, allegedly by Sean Combs, that he would make him a star, but needed to visit with him in private about it, away from his parents. Once they were in a private area, allegedly Mr. Combs made the victim perform oral sex upon him.
Oh, hell no. First of all, my fellow parents. There is no reason a grown adult ever needs to have a conversation with your child away from you. I don't care how famous you want your baby to be. I don't care. Grown adults do not need to have private conversations with children. Ridiculous. I hope that some of these parents are held responsible. What? No, you don't need to walk off and have a conversation. If you need to have a conversation with my child, you can do it in front of me. Thanks. I'll do the Miss Love Life. No, bitch. And y'all, please tell your children, it doesn't matter who the person is. Tell them to f*** off and then run away. You know, tell the person f*** off, bite their dick, whatever, and run. And come tell me, I will always believe you. I'm your parent. Please, y'all. Please. Because a part of this is these kids, is that their parent let them be in these rooms with these adults. That's a truth. And, you know, these monsters, they like easy prey. You know, if they see that you're have a good bond and open communication with your kid, that's not an easy prey. They don't want that. You know, then there's the risk that your kid's going to come talk to you. They don't want that. So make sure you try your damnedest to have open, loving conversations with your kids, and don't let them go have private conversations with grown men. Ugh. And, you know, I don't know if any of you have been watching that Maddie Soto case out of Florida. Like, your kid does not need to sleep in a bed with someone that's not their parent. Maybe their grandparent would be okay, but like, all right, high horse removed. Sorry, guys, so much high horse. Stupid Diddy.
Another incident. An individual, 15 years old at the time, flown
15.
to
Another 15-year-old.
City to attend a party.
Flown to New York to attend a party. Now, I'm not letting my kid get on a plane at 15 to fly to New York without me to go to a party. Now, I'd let my kid at 15 fly to New York to meet up with her friends, you know, have the mom pick her up and she spends some time with her friend, and the mom is there. I know the mom, you know, like the dad is there. I know the dad. I know the family. Fine. But for a party of a stranger, I mean, I could see my daughter's very good friend lives in New York. Let's say the kid had a super sweet 16 and my daughter wanted to go. Absolutely, I'm going to let her fly to New York for a party because it's her friend whose mother has been in my home, who I have met, who I know, who I talked to her mom online. Like, I'm not letting my kid go to across the country on a plane to go to an adult party with adults that I don't know. That is bad parenting, y'all.
Drugged and then taken into a private room, allegedly in the presence of Mr. Combs.
No, I'm not taking away from how sick Diddy is either. Okay, like no. Diddy is sick.
Where this female individual minor was raped, and then other individuals took turns raping her.
Oh my God.
Another individual, 26 at the time.
A 15-year-old imported so a bunch of people could rape her. That's disgusting. And the worst part of my mind is, like, Diddy has kids. He probably had a 15-year-old at the time he was doing that. That's just so gross. Ugh. How can you... Ugh. I digress.
Of the occurrence was picked up by, allegedly, by Mr. Combs and several other people in a black SUV from the airport, was given one drink in the SUV, and then literally woke up the next day not knowing what had happened, but with pain and damage to both her vagina and her anus.
Okay. He gives several more stories that, sound just like that. Several more adults that wake up and there's pain down there. He did say several actually went to the hospital. The hospital tested them for drugs. That's where they found the weird horse tranquilizer was being used. They're like, the hospital's like, where'd you get horse trank? And the person was like, I've never heard of that shit. I'm a normal human. So yeah, police reports, medical reports, 120 verified victims. More likely than not. I mean, it's civil, so it's not beyond a reasonable doubt. It's just more likely than not. But verified enough that this attorney feels confident that he can prove more likely than not this happened. It's sick. But I gotta say, Cat Williams was right. In the beginning of the year, he said 2024 is the year it is all exposed. And he was dead ass right. And I cannot wait for Tony Buzbee to give up the list of names. I cannot wait to hear who else was in those rooms. And I can't wait to see every single one of them end up behind bars, hopefully in the kind of prison where the men have been there for a really long time and want to take advantage of them in a really gross and rough way. And I hope that's how they live out their lives. Because that's what they deserve. Once it's proven beyond a reasonable doubt, of course. Because, everyone sitting in the courtroom is not guilty. All right, y'all. Thank you so much for your memberships. You guys are amazing. I really appreciate you. Thanks for joining me on this Diddy video. I hope y'all are having a wonderful week. And I'll see you on Fridays. Talk about YSL. Wednesdays, right now I'm following Sarah Boone. So we'll do that on Wednesdays. And I will talk with you all soon. Thank you.